Next scene. Now this is another important scene in this episode. It's around the 16-minute mark, and let's get right into it. Okay, get this queued up for you guys here. Okay, this is around 1633. This is back with Geralt and his kind of newly developing crew. And this is going to be an important moment because they meet this vampire character, right? This is Geralt, this is Jastrelak, and the companions. They encounter this philosopher vampire. And this is going to be important. Now, this is a character that is played, obviously, by Lawrence Fishburne. I think impeccably done, but according to my wife, he's terrible, okay? But this dialogue kind of introduces a real important piece of the lore. Because we start talking about the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh elements as they complete this party's early formation. So as we get introduced to this character, this is really core to their mythology, right? Because the fifth element is the ether. This is how he's going to break it down. The fifth element is the ether. This is life, and this is magic. The sixth element is going to be revealed as chaos, which is creative energy, and this is super important. And this is from the conjunction of the spheres as everything came together. The seventh is order and harmony, and this is the alchemist's ideal balance of all these forces. So what we get is this vampire who Emil Regis, and what he calls himself as is a barber surgeon who does all this alchemy as well. So this guy's been alive for like 400 years. He has a very interesting tale, and this is a guy who, again, he says he smells like an apothecary shop, and he does, because this is what he does. So imagine you're adventuring. You don't get a lot of safe spaces, right, when you're out adventuring. Now, the interesting thing is this gets into some vampire lore and how it's told in this world, because while we meet him here in the dark, he doesn't attack them as a vampire. What he's showing when he goes and he does the whole scene where he invites them back to his dwelling. He has a hut or whatever he calls it here. And that's an important line because he understands what he's telling them in a lot of ways. And he has a small cottage. He takes them back. And he really breaks it down. So all this stuff is going to be very important because this is kind of developing Gerart's kind of crew. He's always kind of been this loner, outside of the bar, who isn't a fighter. But he adds a lot more with this new addition that he's got. Again, he adds some of the things I think are kind of core, to this genre, right? We get the dwarf fighters. We get the quasi elf, with the archer at least. So that kind of changes the dynamic, and it really kind of encompasses everything. This fight on all levels is not just about humans; it's about all the elves. So this is them going into the vampire's domicile here, right? And this is going to be very, very important. Now he stays on guard. Everybody stays on guard. Because they still understand. They're desperate. They need a place to go. They're hungry. That fire is looking good. But this is a vampire. So Geralt looks at him as pretty much, on equal par. We're both very dangerous creatures. So the dialogue that comes between them is very natural. He's finding a counterbalance to himself. And this is what he says. I'm attempting to distill the fifth element. So again, this is very, very important because, again, that fifth element, now the director is introducing more of the myth and the lore into the series. Distilling all these fifth elements, this becomes very important. It kind of defines the universe itself, but it definitely defines where this particular vampire is on his journey. Because what he makes is an elixir, right, that tastes really good. The sixth element as well, right? And the seventh, right? And so that's where he's coming from. Now, they call it a divine elixir, and that's what it is. It's a heavenly mead. It's very important because what this vampire is showing is through his alchemy, it's his own progress. He goes from obviously being a vampire and early on, the classic kind of vampire story where he is, a slave to the lower elements, the flesh, the blood. He is moving up to higher ascendance, which is what their world all is. So he kind of embodies the entire philosophy of the world. His distillation symbolizes his transcendence beyond instinct. And this is what this world is founded on. So he and Geralt together, they both kind of represent a level of control, a level of resisting your instincts. They both were given all this power, but they know if they go too deep in it, what they really lose. So you really have two creatures who can identify with trying to fight to hold on to your humanity. And that's really what we see. So he offers all this to them for free, right? And we never see anyone this kind. Geralt gets a drink, and pretty soon, this kind of morphs into something else. So we get some symbolic parallels between the vampire and Geralt in that sense of like fighting your humanity and both kind of being larger, fighting larger temptations for what they are. And that's super important. Now, the other thing that goes down is for this new crew, this becomes a real bonding moment. So we see all, the dwarf and Edward. I still call him Mickey because I remember when he was on Seinfeld. But now we got, the scene, like we're forging this fellowship together. We've got all these various parts together. So we're forging intellect, we're forging artistry. Some of them are built on, violence. But all these things are coming together in one crew. So this is a very important moment, in the development. And I think we're going to see this kind of alliance go for it. It will be defining. Spoiler alert, I did watch ahead. But there's going to be some very important things that go on with this particular crew that we got to be watching. It's going to matter. What goes on with this crew, particularly this vampire, is going to matter later in the story. Definitely in the next couple of episodes. Okay. So I want to get to this next part here, and this is another scene. Okay. So this is an important scene here because now we're back on Ciri, right? So this is important, right?